give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
Steve Ricketts of Hickson says that even if his former employer, Krispy Kreme, had given him an additional $50 a week, he wouldn't want to go back. He would not want to go back to being a route supervisor at that job, which he left a while ago. He did some odd jobs, and now Steve Ricketts, age 49, is an entrepreneur riding either of two vehicles and powered by the Uber app. Of course, the Uber app is not powering his gasoline-run Volvo or his Ford van. They are powering his smartphone, which is his means of accessing riders. Uber is the ride-sharing service based in California. It's a hugely overpriced company on the stock exchange. It's valued at $51 billion or so, and is seems to be largely overvalued. But the service it provides to the Chattanooga local economy is remarkable in that it's giving people an idea. It's giving people such as Steve Ricketts the idea that, hey, I can be a capitalist, an entrepreneur, and risk taker on my own. And that is what we're going to ask Steve about. So, Steve, tell us what you did as a Krispy Kreme route supervisor. What kind of job was that? What kind of perils and troubles did it give to you? You were a man who earned a salary. Is that right?
Yes, I was salary. It was a very stressful job because you had to, work all kinds of hours. You may go in at 2 a.m, run a route, and then get home at 2 p.m, find out at 5 o'clock at night somebody else didn't show up, so you got to run again. So it was, you could work 16, 18 hours in one day, and maybe 80 hours in a week and have no family life,
Well, you do have a family.
Yeah.
Steve Ricketts. What kind of, tell us about your family right quick.
Well, I got 3 kids, one still in high school, and then I've got 2 stepchildren and 1 grandbaby.
So you have you have one at home, and you're married, and you how long had you worked for Krispy Kreme, the donut people?
9 years.
And you rose through the ranks to become a supervisor?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Of a route. So or routes. Now, what happened to you, and what brought you to be an Uber ride-sharing driver? You're a man who provides rides to people who have the Uber, who are in the Uber network, using either a Ford van or a Volvo XC90, a little SUV. How did you get into the position you are now? What happened?
Well, I was looking just to do something part-time and got on and seen that they were hiring. So I looked into it and thought, well, I can drive all day and, set my own schedule and things. And I started out part-time and started thinking, gosh, look at all this money, I can make being out there. And so I started doing it more and more, and I do it about 35 to 40 hours a week now, and, make a good living at it. Well,
what happened when you realized, tell us about the day you realized that you can't just keep doing your job at Krispy Kreme, or had you discovered Uber after you had already left that company?
I discovered Uber afterwards. At Krispy Kreme, I just couldn't do it anymore because I wasn't being able to see my wife. She was here, I was in Atlanta, and it just getting up at 2 a.m, working until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then going back in and leaving on Saturday afternoons at 2 or 3 in the afternoon to come home and have to be back in Atlanta by 5 p.m. on Sunday. It was just wasn't for me anymore.
So, all right. So you did some part-time work after resigning from. Well, did you resign from Krispy Kreme before you had landed other work? What happened there? That seems kind of risky.
Yeah, I had some stuff lined up here. Some part-time. Me and the wife were getting into doing some stuff, and she worked from home, so we just kind of.
And so Uber came about as another part-time option, another revenue stream.
Yes. And like I said, I started out part-time, and I like it so much and enjoy it. Get to meet different people from all over, the U.S. and Canada. So,
well, what kind of earnings have you enjoyed thus far, and have you had a peak day?
Yeah, actually, last Saturday was probably my peak day with the soccer tournament that was in town. I usually don't go out till 7 or 8 o'clock on Saturdays.
In the morning?
No, in the afternoon, evenings. But I decided, I was sitting at home and I turned the app on when I'm at home, and I got a call that was close to the house going to Finley Stadium. So I said, well, I'll just stay out. And I stayed out. It was a nonstop thing until about 1:30 in the morning.
And how much did you earn on that day?
Right about $250 for that one day.
And do you have a weekly peak amount that you earned working at 30 to 40 hours a week?
Yeah, I've earned as much as $650 in 1 week, and I average about $450 a week.
Well, what is it like? What is it like to have an interaction with an Uber rider? How does it work exactly? Tell my listener. Pretend my listener is a member, and well, let's say not the listener, but let's say my listener is not a member of Uber, but the man in the next cubicle is a Uber rider. So what happens? The neighbor in the office cubicle says he needs a ride, right? What happens? Describe the process.
He goes on to the Uber app, and then he requests a ride, and the closest person will get beeped, and they will, go pick him up.
Can they choose to pick him up or not?
Yeah, they can choose if it's somewhere or some rider that they know that they've had problems with, which we never have. Then you can decline it. But, it's...
Have you ever declined a rider?
No.
Do you rate the riders?
Yeah, they rate us, and we rate them.
What's your rating, Steve Ricketts?
My ratings are 4.75.
What does that mean?
Out of 5.
Okay. And so your passengers you rate too, so everyone kind of knows everyone else by number, by grade.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many Uber drivers are there in Chattanooga, Steve Ricketts?
I would say probably 50, 60 of us, maybe even more. On any given Friday or Saturday night, I can count 20, 25 of us out there. But that's just who's sitting still. If you're not sitting still, if you're on the road with a rider, it doesn't show you online.
Right. If you're busy, you're not available.
Yeah.
Does it ever happen that two riders who are not connected with each other get in the same Uber car because you're passing by one? And does that ever happen?
No. As Uber drivers, we're supposed to, when we stop, because you may pick up, there may be 4 people there at that one place waiting on an Uber driver. You're supposed to, hey, how you doing, John, or whoever you're picking up, and say, I'm not John. Then you say, I'm sorry, I'm here to pick up John. So sometimes it happens, you get the wrong person, but most of the time, no.
Well, if my listener is an Uber member, can he bring along 3 other people on a ride with you and pay the same, or how does that work if they're non-Uber members who are getting a ride with him in your car?
Yeah, you can bring up to 4 members, 4 people with you until XL comes in here in a couple of months, which is a van. You can take up to 6 people, but you can take up to 4. It costs the same. And you can even, if you got 4 Uber riders, you can split the fare into 4 so that they all pay the same price. How does
this is David Tulis. We're talking with Steve Ricketts, who's an Uber driver. He's 49 years old, lives in Hickson, ran a route. He was a route supervisor for Krispy Kreme for 9 years, and then when he left there under pressure, time pressure, sort of against his family, he did some odd jobs and various assignments until he found Uber. He began January the 5th to take riders here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. How does your service, Steve Ricketts, compare to the cab operator, the man who's hired by a cab company to run a cab? How does he view the passenger versus how do you view a passenger?
Well, I view the passenger as a friend. They requested us, and a good thing about the Uber is.
Hold on, we got a caller. Caller, what's on your mind? You're live on the air.
Yeah, I just have a question for him. I know in some other cities that the cab service gets highly upset when Uber drivers are picking up from the airport or taken to the airport. Has he experienced anything like that here in Chattanooga? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for the call.
Now, the airport, we can only pick up in short-term parking. So if we get a beep from the airport, we tell them that we will meet them in short-term parking. A lot of times I will park in the short-term parking, which, we have 15 minutes free, to park in there. And I'll go get them, walk them to the car. That way we don't even have to deal with taxi companies. They're hardly ever out at the airport anyway.
So are there generally, Steve Ricketts, to your knowledge, other Uber drivers available at the airport any time of day or near the airport to pick up a passenger?
Yeah, there's from what I understand, there's a couple of guys that live about a mile from the airport. So they turn on their app. Now,
talk a little bit about the legal relationship you have with Uber, the corporation. You're not employed. What is the relationship?
We are we're a contractor. So we get basically 80% of the fare, but
what responsibilities do you have for your own maintenance and upkeep and schedule?
Well, we work our own schedule. We work when we want to, but like if our car breaks down, like my Volvo, the oil pump's out in it now. It went out Saturday night. I had to have it towed. So I had to pay for the tow. I had to pay to get it fixed, and everything else as the upkeep. I have to pay for my own gas. So everything that I do for that vehicle, I have to pay for.
And that's not something you resent or dislike, is it?
No.
And
no.
Why do you accept these burdens?
Because I can work when I want to. I can, everything is, me and my wife, we both do Uber, so we can work around, schedules.
Well, what is your wife's name, Steve Ricketts?
Tammy.
Well, tell us about Tammy's work for Uber.
She just works part-time. She'll go out one night a week just to do it.
And does she take the Ford van, just drive around, wait, or does she go to certain hot spots in Chattanooga?
Most of the time we'll go out together on Sunday and go downtown. She doesn't like to be out with all that Friday and Saturday night crowds, so she'll go out on the slower nights. Me and her will go out and we'll sit
in separate car.
Yes,
in separate cars.
Yeah, we cannot have any other passengers with us.
When you're working.
Yeah, when we're working.
So what do you do? What do you do on Friday evening, Steve Ricketts, to get fare? Do you just wander? Do you drive around when you're? Let's say it's downtown. What do you do downtown? Are there certain haunts where my listener could find you?
Well, what I do is I wait till I get a beep at home, and then I go downtown, and then I just kind of hang out somewhere down toward the Marriott or down toward Buffalo Wild Wings, and get on my tablet. And by the time I get my tablet on and signed on to do something, I'm on the way to pick up somebody.
And you really enjoy this work. You would not want. What if Krispy Kreme contacted you and said, "Hey, Steve Ricketts, you did a great job for us for 9 years, and we really need a supervisor. We'll pay you an extra $95 a week to come back and work for us." What would you say? And
only if I could get Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Which would never happen.
That's an impossible condition for employment, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to have a set number of hours a day that you work, and you would want to have some control of your schedule. And if you're an employee, you're in a master-servant relationship, so you can't set your hours. You effectively have to agree to the hours imposed upon you by your employer.
Yes. So
you are now much more of a free man, Steve Ricketts of Hickson, as an Uber driver than you were working for a big company.
Yes.
What kind of regrets do you have? Are there any things that you wish that you just have to accept? You don't like them, and you continue not to like them, but you just accept them now that you're with Uber?
Not really. Just the biggest regret is the traveling when I was with Krispy Kreme, but I don't miss the hours.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with an Uber driver who's with his wife, Steve Ricketts, with his wife, Tammy. Both are Uber drivers. They are part of the sharing economy. The idea of local economy is, of course, personal relationships. And he finds that with the work for Uber, which is a $51 or so billion company that essentially runs some servers and an app, that he is serving people with rides whom he considers friends, some of whom he sees more than once. And our show here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is about this very point. How do we have more of that here in Chattanooga? How can the idea of sharing economy pervade other quarters, not just the taxi industry? Now, Uber is not a taxi service, is it, Steve Ricketts?
No, it's a ride share service.
And the main difference is
the people that we pick up, we know who we're picking up, their name, and they also know who we are. They can see on the app my picture, what car I'm driving, and my license plate number. And so, that's the reason I say I look at them as friends, because I know who they are. I can address them by name.
So you're having amicable dealings with people whom you get to know. That maybe not your neighbors necessarily, but they live in your town, and eventually you get to know who they are. They're part of the same network. Well, if you're going to eat out, or if you have a desire to eat out today and think you're not going to be able to do the routines, make sure you consider going to Delia's Authentic Mexican Restaurant in South Saudi Daisy. Delia's, run by Maria Hernandez, has a rich selection. She has loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, enchiladas, all the things that Americans enjoy when they dine south of the border, if you will. Delia's Authentic Mexican Restaurant. The special today is a taco salad. It's $6.25. It's $1 off. Mention our radio station to the waiter or the waitress, or mention my name, David Tulis, and you should expect to get a free iced tea, sweetened or non-sweetened. If you have any printing needs, make sure you try Marco's Printing here in Hickson. Marco's Printing can get all your work done. And also, if you have a concern for the breathability of your office, your building, your factory, or your home, maybe you have mold and mildew problems in your ductwork, make sure you call Ducts, the indoor air professionals, formerly known as Duct Busters. Ducts will clean the mold and mildew and the junk out of your long neglected ductwork. And there's a special for you if you have your house done by any member of the Thompson family or the highly trained staff at Ducts. You'll get a free $90 job done, and that is your dryer vent. Your dryer vent is clogged with lint, and it could be a fire hazard if you don't take care of it yourself, or at no inconvenience to the Ducts crew, have the Ducts people handle that for you and reduce your risk of a blaze at your house. The number is 876-9907, 876-9907. And we're looking at decentralization in the American economy through the powerful Uber app. There are other apps coming. They will come also, as we're going to see in tutoring. I'd like to think that they come in the educational sector as well, that if you need tutoring, you can have certain things done kind of on the spot by someone who's qualified through an app, through a relationship with a curator, if you will, to provide that service. We have it also with Airbnb, where you, my listener, if you're a member of Airbnb, you can have people staying in a room in your house for your nominal charge. The Airbnb network skims off 20% or so of the fee that you collect. It's all done by credit arrangements, and you are paid. Steve, how regularly were you paid as a manager at Krispy Kreme?
Every 2 weeks.
And now?
Every week on Thursday. And
you can keep a running tab, I guess, of your income before payday?
Well, yeah, they actually have a thing where they show each ride, each stop that we do, and they show you how much we're getting paid on it. And then they run a running total. Like I can see, if I've done 3 rides today, I can go and see how much I've made already this week.
Now, if my listener had, let's say, taken each of those 3 rides with you, and he had done the same thing with, let's say, Yellow Cab or another cab company, which fare would be cheaper?
Uber.
Can you say about how much?
They say by 30%.
30% less, and that's because the Uber system, which has contractors who bear their own costs, doesn't charge as much, right? It has a much lower overhead.
That's right.
And the overhead is that of the driver, in this case, the Ricketts family, Steve Ricketts and his wife, Tammy. Both are drivers for Uber. Steve drives either a Ford van or the Volvo. He has a Volvo XC90 SUV, and the oil pump is out. And when is that going to be repaired and back up for service?
Hopefully in a day or two.
The Uber driver has all the expense and all the toil and headache of car repairs. It's on his own dime. He's going to be spending some of his last 2 weeks' fare to pay for that oil pump and the labor involved in that. But he has the benefit. He's glad to do it, and that's because he's involved in the sharing economy here in Hamilton County in Chattanooga. And he's a contractor. He's an entrepreneur. He's kind of a venture capitalist. And no regrets.
No.
He's not going back to the old world of employment. This is David Tulis, and our show is here at AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, sponsored by Nooganomics.com. Nooganomics.com is the website of which I'm the editor,